Exercise has been one of my New Year's resolutions ever since I can remember. I've exercised on and off, but I've never been able to stick to it consistently. But I had an epiphany recently, and I don't even know what sparked it, but it has changed my entire outlook on exercise. I'm no longer fighting it. It's not this elusive thing anymore that I do for a few days and then I stop for some reason and can't even remember the last time that I did it. I used to try and force it. I have to do exercise. I should be exercising. I'm bad if I'm not exercising. I'm lazy. I'm unfit. Firstly, berating yourself for anything will not make you consistent with that thing. It might motivate you in the short term, but name calling and treating yourself poorly will only lead to you feeling worse and eventually demotivated. It's important to lead with self-compassion and avoid judging yourself. My epiphany surrounding exercise led me to creating the Movement Trigger Toolkit, which I want to share with you in this video. The exciting thing about this toolkit is that it can be used for more than just exercise. It can be used for any habit that you do on and off, but I'll start with exercise and explain how it can be adapted later on. So the first important thing to note is that I realized that exercise is easy for me while I'm doing it. The difficult part is those first few days after having not exercised for a while. So not exercising is easy. It takes no effort. I might feel guilty while I'm not exercising, but it's easy not to. But exercising is also easy once I'm in the routine of it. And instead of feeling guilty, I feel proud of myself while I'm exercising. But it's just those few days in between that are the hard part. It's difficult because once you haven't done something in a while, you have to stretch out your comfort zone again, and that can cause discomfort. So that was the first part of the puzzle. I stopped exercising at one point, and then to get back into exercising, the first few days can be difficult. But that made me ask a different question. Why am I stopping in the first place? I reflected on it and I realized that there's actually only 3 reasons that I stop exercising. The first is when I'm sick. The second, when I'm injured, and the third is when I get busy. These are the reasons that I stop exercising, and I haven't really come across another reason. Sometimes it might feel like there's so many things, and busy does encompass a lot of things, but the majority of the time it's when I get sick or I get injured and I stop exercising purposefully, but then I fall off the bandwagon and I forget to get back on again. So the good thing about the third reason, being busy, is once you acknowledge that that's a reason you stop exercising, it kind of doesn't stop you anymore. You can consciously decide, okay, I know that I'm busy, but I'm going to make sure that exercising is a priority. The other 2, on the other hand, are a little bit trickier. When you're sick, it's important to rest. And when you're injured, it's important to rest that part of you so that it can recover. I realized that once I fall off the wagon, so I get sick or I get injured or I get busy and I stop exercising, that hiatus can go on indefinitely because there's nothing to trigger me to start exercising again. Usually it would require me to feel bad enough about myself to start exercising again, and that is not a healthy cycle to be in. So that's where the Movement Trigger Toolkit comes in. I needed something positive to trigger that cycle again. Instead of waiting for something to eventually trigger me again, I would artificially create a trigger for myself. So this toolkit is now part of my weekly reset. Each week, I ask myself 3 questions, and I answer these questions objectively with no judgment. Have I fallen off the wagon with exercise? If the answer is yes, what was the reason for me falling off? Was I sick? Was I injured? Did I get busy? Or was it something else? This is to help me reflect and see what it is that causes me to stop exercising the most. And the last question, when can I schedule exercise? Either today or tomorrow. If I'm really unwell at the time of doing my reset, I'll usually put a reminder in my calendar in order to check in a few days' time. Now that I've created this trigger for myself every week, I've gotten in the habit of thinking about exercise more, and so I'm finding that I answer no to falling off the wagon far more often now. And as an added bonus, because I'm so aware of the 3 reasons that cause me to stop exercising, they don't stop me as often anymore. When I'm injured, I find alternative exercises I can do to allow that part to heal. Or when I'm busy, I don't let that be an excuse for not getting in some form of exercise, even if it's just a 7-minute HIIT workout or a quick walk outside. I'm no longer having to rely on willpower to exercise. I know that I can rely on my weekly reset instead. I do have a video on my full weekly reset, which I'll leave linked in the description below. So in addition to acknowledging the cycle and the 3 questions, I also added a list of one-off support actions I can take to help those first few days be less difficult. What would happen previously is I would realize that I wasn't exercising, and then I would put exercise exercise on my to-do list. But there is so much resistance towards that word, especially when it's outside your comfort zone after having not exercised for a while. So instead, I found small things that I can do that support my exercise habit. So those are things like filling up my water bottle, laying out my workout clothes, picking out new YouTube workouts. These are all things that will help me to exercise, but they're not just exercise itself. I don't have any resistance towards laying out some clothes or filling up a drink bottle. So these are all the things that make up my Movement Trigger Toolkit. But I mentioned at the start of this video, this toolkit can be adapted to any habit that you do on and off. I'll explain how. I was thinking about this toolkit and I realized that the same principles could be applied to reading. And then I realized, hang on, it could be applied to anything where you go for periods of time without doing it and then you're triggered to do it again. Meditating, creative projects, side hustles. There are so many applications for this toolkit. Let's use the example of reading. I know that a lot of people want to read more, but reading slumps are definitely a thing. So if I was creating this toolkit for myself, this is how I would make it. Have I stopped reading? Yes or no? What made me stop? Either I got busy, I wasn't liking the book I was reading, or I don't have a book that excites me. When can I get back into this habit? Either today with a book that you have, or after buying a new book. Supportive actions I can take. Putting a book on my bedside table, making a new bookmark, reading spoiler-free reviews of books that I'm wanting to read, or setting an alarm to go to bed 30 minutes earlier. So you can see how this trigger model fits in perfectly with a reading habit too. If there are habits that you sometimes do consistently and then sometimes fall off the wagon, I highly recommend sitting down and thinking about the relationship you have with the habit. Ask yourself, what is stopping you from doing this habit? How do you feel when you're doing this habit versus when you're not? And what triggers you to start again? And are there any supportive actions you can take to start the cycle back up again? I would love to hear if you end up using this trigger toolkit, especially if you adapt it to a different habit. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.